All right, welcome back. Welcome in and bear down. Do appreciate when you guys tune in. It means a lot to me to be able to have this channel, so thank you for tuning in. Today we're going to continue our series where we go over each individual position for the upcoming draft or for the upcoming offseason. Sometimes I recommend free agency for the Bears for what they should do. We're going to hit that in this video with the safety position. And the reason this is so important for the Bears is because all the contracts are coming up here after next year. Every single one of them expires at the end of 2025. All four of our guys. So they're all expiring. And on top of that, Jaquan Brisker, who even knows if he's ever going to be healthy again? Like, he's been out since October, delayed going on the injured reserve, and then they put him on the injured reserve, and then they never took him off. Probably going to have to wear a Guardian cap every day, every game for the rest of his career, which, you know, all power to it. I wish they all would do it more, especially if I think that if you ever had one concussion, I think they should be required to have a Guardian cap. But I am going to primarily hit in the draft for that reason, because we do have a full roster. We'll probably extend someone on this roster. I don't know if we can extend Jaquan Brisker unless he gets healthy. And he's been a hard hitter. He's been a lot of fun to watch, but he's never really hit that peak where he's top in the league. And we did bring in some good talent. And Elijah Hicks really has come on strong and become a very developmental safety that's played very well. So let's start by looking at last year where we stood. Shrink me down a little bit. You guys know I like to use this little logo as a pointer. I'm going to bring it over here and show. So here's the four guys that are left under contract. And it's the primary four guys, so it's really good. Free agents after this last season, we got Tavarius Moore, Doug Coleman, Adrian Colbert, and JT Woods. JT Woods was just brought in at the very end for depth as people were injured. Adrian Colbert was brought back after being cut, and Tavarius Moore never really hit the field. He really stayed primarily on the practice squad. You can see the snaps over here for the year. Jonathan Owens had 429. Kevin Byard had 1,055. Jaquan Brisker had 293. Elijah Hicks had 356. So most of those guys really split, while Kevin Byard held down free safety. The rest of them really split between strong safety. And then here's our remaining contracts. And as I said, they all come due at the end of next year. So 2026, all four of these guys are going to be unrestricted free agents. So it's very important that we build some depth. I put free safety here. Should have switched that backwards. Sorry. Don't get stuck on the positions. I think most of you guys know where our positions are with that group. But if you look this last year, Jonathan Owens was 40th ranked out of 98 free safeties that qualified, or safeties, period. Kevin Byard, 25th out of 98. Elijah Hicks, 26th out of 98. And that's a year after being like 92nd out of 94 that qualified. So one of the worst in the league. And he had a really huge, impactful year. So I'm really grateful for Elijah Hicks. I was on the train of saying cut him, get rid of him, but we have to remember, especially defensive backs and safety positions, wide receivers, it takes a year or two to develop. Some guys can hit year one, but that transition into the NFL from college is a big change at safety, at defensive back, cornerback, at wide receiver. Those are big changes. They play a different style in the NFL than they do in college. So props to Elijah Hicks for sticking with it, and I'm glad we have him. Just hit this real quick. This was the year before, and I don't know if you noticed in the last one, but Jaquan Brisker didn't qualify because he didn't play enough snaps, so he didn't have a qualifying grade. But Elijah Hicks, 94th out of 96. Eddie Jackson, 78 out of 96, which is why we let him go. And Jaquan Brisker, 54 out of 96, but showed so much upside potential, you know, that we were very excited to have him. And there is still so much upside potential, but, you know, he's got to get healthy, and we got to have him on the field. So last free agency, this was the video from last year. This is what I had recommended that we do. Obviously, Antoine Winfield Jr., if he hit the open market, I said 5 years, $92.5 million would be a fair valuation for him. This below is what actually happened. Okay, so this was my primary, Antoine Winfield Jr. He got tagged. Xavier McKinney was my number 2. I said 24 years old, because of that reason I picked him. 3 years, $37.5 million, $12.5 annual. He ended up signing with the Packers for an annual of $17 million, so they way overpaid for him. The value, he's played very, very well for him. So saying they overpaid for him is relative to, you know, they did get a solid safety out of him. So I can only say he overpaid, but more than what the market was saying. So they paid for him. They got him. He's played very well for him. And then Kevin Byard was my number 3, only because of his age, 30 years old. When we signed him, I was very excited. 3 years, $21 million is what I said, $7 million annual, and he ended up signing for 2 years, $15 million, so $7.5 million annual. So very close to what I said for Kevin Byard. I think we got a great contract with him because he's played very well for us. As we were looking to the draft, because Elijah Hicks hadn't stepped up yet, I thought it was possible we would go for a safety. This was not my prediction for last year. I said it wasn't a priority for us, but it was possible we could. And that's going to be the exact same thing I say this year. Because of all those positions that are coming up at the end of this year, all 4 of them will be free agents, our entire safety room. So I think it's important for us to find someone, whether they draft. So I don't think it'll be in free agency. So I'm not even going to hit free agency in this video. There's some good free agent safeties coming out, but I mean, we've got really good starters there. But I see us hitting the draft more for depth and more to be able to have stability there long term, especially with those contracts all coming due at the end of 2025. But here's last year's draft class. I was high on Tyler Nubin. I really like Tyler Nubin a lot. And these were the metrics I used last year, and I really haven't changed that a lot. In fact, I refined it a little bit. But things that were important to me, especially at the free safety position, NFL pass rating against, that is not as important at the strong safety position. Tackles, and so the T/M is tackles and missed tackles. That to me is more important there. Your tackling grade is important at your strong safety. Coverage grade is important too, but it's just not going to be as important. And then interceptions, pass breakups are huge. Touchdowns allowed, you don't want those. Forced fumbles are big. So all these things are relative. This position more than any, you really have to watch the film on these guys to get a good feel for them. And I really like Tyler Nubin. I like Kalen Bullock a lot. I like Javon Bullard. I like those 3 guys a lot. Cam Kitchens I wasn't nearly as high on as other people. And then here's how these guys have done in the league. And this is a position, and I probably should have done more last year, where you can find some gems in the 6th, 7th round, in the 5th round. Some of these guys, in fact, Dadrian Taylor Demerson was a 4th rounder. I think Del Pettis was too. I don't have Evan Williams as well. I don't have the exact in my memory bank of where all these guys were drafted, but all 3 of those guys at the top there. This is according to overall defensive grade. It's not organized by tackling or coverage or anything else. I should organize it by snaps, because then on a rookie year for a safety, the really important thing is to get total snaps under your belt. It really helps them change quickly. So Tyler Nubin, Malik Mustafa, Javon Bullard, Kalen Bullock, those guys all got a lot of snaps. Some of these guys got less snaps, but they played well in the snaps they got. So there's they have them ranked from 1 to 12 here from defensive grade, overall grade. But really, your first year as a safety, in my opinion, this is my opinion, I think it's more important to get the reps and to be able to get it under your belt. And if you play well, great. Tackling grade's important, coverage grade's important, overall defensive grade's important. So there's some good safeties in last year's draft, and I think this year's draft is honestly better. Maybe a little bit more high quality at the top, maybe a little less in the middle, and a little deeper overall, in my opinion. This is one where people can debate on this one quite a bit, but I had to go back and create this because I hadn't created this before the draft, so I just created this just to show how these guys were. This is from college. This is how these guys would have fared in the same line of what we're looking at here. NFL pass rating was very low on Dadrian Taylor Demerson, so it kind of had signs there. Pass breakups are always important to me. Those were good. Interceptions were good there. So it just didn't look deep enough into the depth of the safety class, and I looked a little deeper this time because I think it's very good chance that the Bears could take a safety in this draft. I really do. So here's the guys from this year's draft. As you guys have seen in the other ones, I like to do the blue for really highlighting the good on some of these guys, and the red to show some parts that might be a little bit worrisome. And I'm very, very high on Nick Emenwari. In fact, I'll pause this just for a second so you guys can see the tackle. This is PFF's tackling grade, coverage grade, interceptions, forced fumbles, pass breakups, touchdowns allowed, tackles versus missed tackles, their NFL pass rating against. And like I said, strong safety usually has a higher NFL pass rating against them. Just because of the way the position is played. Free safety, it's easier not to have a higher NFL pass rating against them. I know I'm right in the way here with some of these guys down here, but so those are some of the things you can look over on this. You can see some of these guys really stuck out. Malachi Moore, 7 pass breakups. Andrew Makuba, who we just watched in the semifinal game, 6 pass breakups. Kevin Winston Jr. is from 2023 because he was injured all year this year. I think he played a game and a half. Rod Moore, same thing. He in preseason, he was it an ACL or an Achilles, one of the two. Either way, he was out all year this year. Very good prospects though. Tackling grades off the chart for a lot of these guys at the top. This is not the order you'll see of them in your mock draft database. In fact, this is kind of my order here at the top. I focused on the guys I like the most, and then some of these as we go to. This is not an order. So this is not an order of how you'll find them on your mock draft database. But I do have Nick Emenwari as my number one in this draft. I have him as a mid to late first rounder. Xavier Watts is a late first rounder / early second rounder, and Malachi Starks the same. So Xavier Watts is kind of my 2A, 2B with Malachi Starks. Those two are neck and neck in my opinion. Nick Emenwari is ahead of the class. That's not how you're going to find it on your mock draft databases, though. When you're doing your mock drafts, you're going to find Malachi Starks every single time as the number one, and for good reason. He's a great strong safety. He's going to be a great safety, but I think all three of these guys would be steals. So as Bears fans, kind of where I had this video, kind of give my advice about where I think things should go. As Bears fans, in fact, let me just go to these guys. Let me go first. We've got Nick Emenwari. I'll make myself really small. Sorry, Nick. I'm going to cover up your head here at the top because it's the best space to be in. Sorry, buddy. 6'3", 227 pounds, 4.38 40, and he's just an absolute beast. He's going to be able to stick with tight ends. He's going to be able to stick with the bigger guys. He's just, anytime the ball comes around him, he's a hawk. He's very quick as well, 4.38 40 speed. It'll be fun to see these guys at the combine, see how they perform. But every measurable on him is just off the charts. And then when you watch him on tape, he knows how to hit. Like, he's that guy that he's a beefed up Jaquan Brisker. Like, he would be an improvement from Jaquan Brisker. I know all Bears fans like Jaquan Brisker. I like Jaquan Brisker, but Nick Emenwari to me is even better. I was very high on Tyler Nubin last year. He's even higher. I'm even higher on Nick Emenwari this year. So I really like Nick Emenwari. He would be my 1A. My one. And then these other two guys. So where I'm going to get at with my conclusion on this is if any of these three safeties are available at 39 with our first second round pick, I don't think Bears fans should be upset whatsoever if we take any one of these three guys, because any one of them would be day one impact starters, and they would be able to take over from if Jaquan Brisker can't come back, or for the future to be able to have a guy take over next year as contracts are coming to the ends. That's just how the NFL works. Sometimes you cycle through contracts. It would be a huge still to have. I know. We want to go trenches. We want to go offensive line, defensive line, and I completely get that. But if these guys are there and all three of these grade out as late first rounders for me, that they all should be taken in the first round, and they're sitting there and we take them in the second round, that is value. It's best player available, and I would be very happy. I don't think any one of them will be available there. Anybody who needs a defensive back, a nickel, a safety, any form of defensive back there, they're probably going to slam one of these guys. There's some good cornerbacks in this draft too, some really good cornerbacks at the top of this draft. So I don't think that, but if they're there at 39 or 41, Bears fans should not be upset whatsoever. We can fill some gaps in the line and free agency. We can fill some gaps with our first and our second and our third round picks. There's options here, and that's why I have mocked out a couple times Xavier Watts in the late second round or the third round. Ultimately, you guys know I would love to have us trade back from 10 to 18, 19, 20, somewhere in there, gain an extra second or third round pick, and then do something like this. Gives us the extra flexibility. That's my opinion, but who knows if the Bears will do that or what they'll pull off. It's hard to trade back. Ryan Poles does not like to trade back especially. So we'll go to the next guy. The next one I have on here is Xavier Watts. Really like him as well. He's the epitome of a hard hitter, ball hawk. You guys just watched him in the semifinal game. He's going to be in the national championship game now too. And I don't know a lot about him personally, but they say he's very high IQ and very high character with a high work ethic. But what you do see on tape when you watch him is he's an extremely hard hitter. He hits hard. So I like Xavier Watts a lot. I think he would be awesome for the Bears as well. And Malachi Starks, who most places have him as the number one safety. He sticks hip to hip very well with guys. They say he's got sprinter speed, 4.35 40, 6'1", 205. Impressive length and elite overall athleticism. You'll read all that here. If you guys want to pause it, you can do that. He's very physical as well. There's a reason most places have him mocked as the number one overall. He's tough. And they say he's very versatile as well. He played primarily strong safety this year, but there were a couple games where he played free safety as well. He can fill into the nickel as well. So Very good. And then I'll give you guys one sleeper here, Dante Trader Jr. from Maryland. He missed a couple games with injury this year, but he's a very developmental strong safety is what I should say. He's got some weaknesses. He can't stay with the bigger guys as much, but he's not a hard hitter when I watch on tape. Now, I haven't watched extensive tape on all these guys. I watched some highlights and I watched some things. He's a good tackler, very good tackler. In fact, I'll go back to that screen in just a second. He's a very good tackler, but he's not a hard hitter. And I think with some coaching, he can become like a very good developmental. He could become an Elijah Hicks. I mean, he could be a guy that could start if you need him to, but he's not there right now. So I like the prospect of him. Most places have him as an undrafted free agent or a 7th rounder. I would put him somewhere in the 6th rounder. Let me go back to the screen with all their stats on it. And here, and there's a couple of guys I really like too. I like Lathan Ransom a lot too. He fits more of the free safety role though, and we've got Kevin Byard there right now. So, but I mean, if we're drafting for the future and we really like it, I'm not upset with any of these guys. This is a solid safety class, so I liked it. But here's Dante Trader Jr. You can see all the 90 on his tackling grade, 49 tackles made. This is solo tackles. So all these, when it says tackles and missed, these are solo tackles and they're missed tackles solo. So 49 tackles and 3. That's probably the best in the class other than Kevin Winston in 2023 had 46 and 0. Now, all the blue ones were when they had a 90% tackle to miss tackle rate. So Dante Trader Jr. there, his NFL pass rating against him is a little higher. Like I said, at strong safety, that's not as important. 4 pass breakups, 1 interception, 1 touchdown allowed, no forced fumbles. So there's some really good prospects in here. I would love for us to get one of these guys up top. I also wouldn't want us to use one of those picks there because I want the trenches in the beginning. If we got Lathan Ransom in the 3rd, or Dante Trader in the 5th, or Andrew Makuba even in the 3rd or 5th. Like, there's some good quality safeties here. So worth going and watching some tape on if you guys have some downtime, or if you want to check some of those guys out. There are some really good safeties in this class. But my favorite 3 I put right there on the screen. So appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you for always being supportive of this channel. If you don't mind hitting the like button, that helps with the algorithm. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. Appreciate you guys tuning in. I'll have more of these position by position. If you missed the previous ones, go back and look for them. I've done defensive tackles, edges, running backs. I've done several positions so far. We're going to try to get to all of them. And then I'm doing something new this year I've never done before. I am making my own full, complete mock order of every prospect of the draft. So going all the way through of where I think guys land from A to Z. So it's going to be interesting. I'm going to have that out before the draft. Try to have it out a couple weeks before the draft. So I am doing that now, and part of this is part of that. As I do all these evaluations, I line them up how I think they should go, and then I'll order them all in the end, and it's going to be fun. I'll release that, and you guys will be able to check it out. So appreciate you guys. Please hit the like button, and again, until next time, da Bears, and bear down.